What's up, everybody? You're very welcome along to the preview of the UEFA final, the European final. And Leon from Boyle Sports has joined me. And I got to say, mate, if you asked me at the start of this tournament, I know you guys went big on your offer with England, but I didn't think we'd be talking about this all the way through to the final.
No, I didn't either. I mean, I thought, Craig, if they won the group, they'd obviously play every game bar one at Wembley if they were to get all the way to the final. And there's no doubt that's helped them. The three group games, the game against Germany, the atmosphere was absolutely electric. And then they went, obviously, and had an easy quarter-final. But they got the job done quite easy against Ukraine. And then they came back and played Denmark. And over the 120 minutes, the penalty, I've seen them given, I've seen them not given. But I think the better side is in the final. I don't think anyone could argue with that. I think England were the better team against the Danes. Whereas the Italians, probably the most impressive side in the group stages, struggled against Austria. Very lucky against Spain, in my opinion. They were brilliant against Belgium, however, in that quarterfinal. That was a great game of football. But the game against Spain, I thought the Spanish let it slip. But the Italians, they got the job done. And it's a very interesting final. It really is.
I was a bit shocked by the way the Italians set about the semi-final with Spain, because they pressed the life out of Belgium. They didn't give them a second. And I wonder, had they just not got the legs, or was it a plan? Because they certainly didn't look like the same energetic, passionate team. But I tell you what, Chiellini for the toss for the penalties. Have you ever seen a more calm man in your life?
No, he is, Craig, he could have been, one of my favourite all-time movies was Gladiator. And I think if he had been born in a different era, Chiellini would have dominated the arena, because he's just a powerhouse. But he's so calm, he's so collected, and he's the leader of that team. Look, when you've got over 100 caps for your country, him and Bonucci between them, I don't know what the exact number is, but it's well over 200. But the one thing I think about them, Spain showed their lack of pace. And that's an area where England are blessed. Harry Kane dropped a lot deeper against Denmark. He set up the goal when he gave a beautiful pass to Saka, who crossed for Sterling. It was like a carbon copy of the chance Sterling just missed 2 or 3 minutes before that. And I think that's the way to get a Chiellini and Bonucci. You've got to get in behind them. If you play in front of them, they will mop you up and kick you up all day long, because they're two brilliant centre-halves. But Chiellini, what an international career. And if Italy could win, what a way to bow out.
And if I'm not mistaken, while he's had this international career and the career that he's had mainly at Juventus, he also went and got a degree in psychology just for the laugh, because he could while he was at it as well. I mean, what a man, you have to say. I'm actually very happy with this final, if I'm being honest. As a neutral, I looked at the draw. I wouldn't have minded seeing Holland go all the way either, but it wasn't to be. So, funnily, do you think it's any accident that England's best performance came in Rome away from Wembley? That 4-0 demolition job of Ukraine. Was there no pressure on them, or?
I think there was, yeah. And come here, look, I think you've hit on something very important. From the high of Germany at Wembley to maybe going away with very few English fans, it was a totally different atmosphere, a totally different experience. And it probably brought the players back down to earth, considering they had just knocked out Germany for the first time in God knows how long in a knockout tournament. So in fairness to the England players and the management team, who I've been hugely impressed with, Gareth Southgate, throughout this whole tournament, it was probably the perfect scenario to go to Rome, concentrate on the job that had to be done, and they were very good. But I'd also kind of counter that with saying the Ukraine didn't offer much whatsoever in that particular game. I think they had one chance when it was 1-0, and they missed it, and from then on England just strolled through. But I think back at Wembley for the semi-final, in a weird way, they haven't made a final since 1966. So the pressure was all on England. They were the favourites going in against Denmark. They had done something that they hadn't done throughout the tournament and went behind. So you've got to give them a bit of credit where credit is due. They came from behind. They played the better football. No one would say they weren't the better team, and they deserved their place against Italy in this final.
One man who I think everybody, and myself included, probably wrote off was Southgate. I think a lot of us questioned his decision making. A lot of us thought, maybe is he a yes man to the FA? We've seen how quickly they moved to give him a new contract. But whatever you think, redemption is the word for him. You could see he doesn't show emotion very often, but you've seen it released at the end of that game against Denmark.
Absolutely, Craig. Look, I mean, we all know he missed that penalty in 1996 against Germany when they got knocked out in the semi-finals of the Euros again in England at home. They lost to the Germans in Wembley. So I'm sure that was a huge relief. But the one thing I'll say about him, Craig, he's made some big calls right from the start of this tournament. Probably the biggest one in the opening game was to play Raheem Sterling, because Sterling has lost his place at Manchester City. Yes, Pep brought him in for that Champions League final, which probably cost them the Champions League final because they didn't have a holding midfielder. But how much has Raheem Sterling repaid his manager's faith? Sterling, for me, has been England's best player. He's had a hand in every single England goal. He's been the Raheem Sterling of maybe a couple of years ago at Man City, where he was terrorising defences, left wing, right wing, down the middle. He has been Gareth Southgate's go-to man. And it goes to show you what a bit of faith that a manager shows in a player who hasn't had his best season, but has never let him down on international duty. And he's done the business. Harry Maguire is another one, I'd have to say. Came into the tournament not fit, left him out for the first two games, and then brought him in for the last game, even though the team had not conceded a goal in those first two matches. And Tyrone Mings hadn't done much wrong. But Southgate knew Harry Maguire was his man, and he stuck to him. And I actually think Raheem Sterling, I'm going to tip him up for first goal, Craig. He's 7-1 to score first in this final. And I just have a feeling with Sterling, it happens a lot of times in big tournaments. Players come in with a little bit of a shadow over their shoulder because they maybe haven't been doing the business. But by God, Sterling has stood up when it has mattered the most.
Well, that leads me on to a couple of things, actually. One, a brag that I'm going to get to, and two, a question or so from our audience around a couple of markets on the final and the tournament in general that, you know, you're the man to ask. So firstly, I was saying to you beforehand, I got my Boyle Sports 14-1 special up. Ronaldo, Lukaku and Kane to score 4. I was very, very doubtful after Kane had gone through the first few games and not done anything. But once he scored against the Ukraine, got that couple, I was on the road to happiness. So I got that one up. So that's a few quid in the bank. But a lot of people have been asking what happens if the Golden Boot is tied. What happens to their bets?
So currently, Craig, at the moment, we've got Ronaldo and Schick tied on 5. So we say you put €10 on either player to be top scorer. What will happen, because two of them are top scorer, you'll get half your stake at the full odds. So say Ronaldo was, I'm just giving out, I can't remember exactly what he was at the start of the tournament, but say he was 10-1 and you had a tenner on Cristiano Ronaldo. What you'll now get is €5 on Cristiano Ronaldo at 10-1. So you'll get back €55 instead of getting back 110, because it's half your stake because you've two people on it. Now, obviously, if Harry Kane was to score 1 goal on Sunday, that would also put him on 5. So that would mean you would get a third of your stake going on at the full odds. That's exactly how that works.
And would that apply to any accumulators or doubles as well? So if you had, like, for instance, you have a bet on of I think it was Italy, and was it Kane you said?
That's it. Italy to win the tournament, then Kane to be top scorer. So what will happen to me is the part of the bet where Kane is a part of, I will only get a third of that going on to the Harry Kane part. But the Italians, obviously, if they win, they're the winners outright. So my bet will be deducted a little bit. Yes, because two other players finished on the same amount of goals as Harry Kane will. Now, if Harry Kane gets 2, then I get paid the lot because he'll end up with 6.
Yeah, so a perfect Sunday for you then is Italy to win 3-2 and Kane to score the 2.
Well, that would be perfect because I would get my bet fully paid. Italy would obviously win, which gets the other part of my bet up. But I don't think this one's going to have that many goals, Craig. I just have a feeling, I would say 1-1 at the most. I don't see either team scoring more than 1 goal in the 90 minutes. And a big question for Gareth Southgate is, does he go back to the back 3 or does he start with the back 4? The Italians play 4-3-3. Now, we saw with Southgate against Germany, he switched it over to match the Germans' formation. He brought on Trippier, took off Jack Grealish, obviously, to close out the game, which they duly did. But I just don't know what Southgate's going to do, Craig. They were a bit open in the middle of the park for me. Jordan Henderson, if it was me, I would play him because he's got the big game experience. He's a Champions League winner. He's been to a couple of finals with Liverpool. He's won a Premier League with Liverpool. I just felt Rice and Phillips, between them, they were a little bit naive against Denmark.
And another thing is you've had the fantastic 10 quid no lose offer right on throughout the tournament around all England games. Does that apply to the final as well?
It certainly does, Craig. Yeah, bet €10, bet £10 on any market on the Euro final. And if your bet doesn't come in, you get your money back as a free bet. And for me, I'm going to go with the Italians to win on penalties. I think it's 9 or 10 to 1. I just have a feeling Sunday night is going to be a long one. There's so much at stake here. Neither team is going to want to risk leaving gaps or leaving too much open. As I said, I wouldn't be surprised if it's 0-0 after 90 minutes. The most I can see happening inside 90 minutes is 1-1. I think it will be a draw, and I think we're going to be in for a penalty shootout to determine this year's winner.
I'm going to go for Maguire goal. I just have a feeling a set piece. I thought against Denmark, I was actually surprised towards the end of the game before they got the penalty that England weren't. They had a few chances in the corner and they kept going back. I just thought, play it out off the man. He was getting everything, whether it was in his own box or the opposition box. Maguire was winning every single header. So I'm going to back Maguire to score.
He was very unlucky, Craig. It was a world-class save by Kasper Schmeichel, wasn't it? Nearly to win the game for England. And look, Harry Maguire, you're right. England are dangerous at set pieces, and it wouldn't surprise me either if Maguire popped up. He has a good record. He probably should score more for the amount of times he gets on the end of a free kick or a corner kick. Not a bad shout.
So you reckon it's going all the way then to penalties, and you reckon that Italy are going to win? That I can almost hear the keyboards clicking from here with the fume. It's well, look, I tell you what, we need a referee we need a solid referee for this one, because it is going to be shithousery par excellence from both teams.
Yeah, look, I mean, there's so much at stake, Craig. Players know that every free kick they can get for their side, everything is at stake here, and any little edge that any player or either side can get, they're going to try. And why not? You're trying to win a European Championship. This is huge, and especially for England. England haven't won anything in 51 years, and we're still hearing about it. If England were to win this one, we'll hear about it for a long time. But I must say, Gareth Southgate, pure class. The way he has conducted himself, the way the squad have conducted themselves, they've warmed a lot of people to England. And no one should begrudge them because they're here on merit. They deserve to be in the final, in my opinion.
I think maybe I've had this theory all the way through that because a lot of these players, the Fodens, the Mounts, they don't remember the 96s. A lot of them, they don't remember the pain of all before. To them, this is just them going out and playing the game that they love. They've won league titles. Some of them played in Champions League finals, won Champions League finals. To me, this is just, that's why they don't carry that weight. They know about it, of course, but it's not like their fathers would have, or you or I would remember, if of all the times that they were so close, but yet so far. So I think that's helped as well, that youthful arrogance or exuberance.
Absolutely, because they're just playing for what they see in front of them. And I think as well, Craig, England have had problems down throughout the years. It's been well documented. There has been kind of little split groups within the camp, whether it's Liverpool against United players, whether it's Spurs against Chelsea players. But the one thing you get from both teams in the final has to be said, they're both like club sides. They absolutely all get on. They all are pulling in the same direction. So whoever wins, it'll be true unity and whoever can get over the line. But that's one thing that has impressed me under Southgate. He's worked his way up through the English FA system. He, of course, was the manager of the 21s. He's been with this side quite some time. He's now got them to a World Cup semi-final and a European Championships final. It's not a bad CV.
I'll tell you what as well, just to finish up, it has been one of the most enjoyable international tournaments that I can remember. The day we had that 14 goals, 2 extra times in the penalty shootout. I'm not a huge fan of international football generally. I mean, give me Italia 90 and USA 94, but after that, we've had some lean years. But I'll never ever forget that day. That 14 goal day was unbelievable.
It was unreal because you're looking at France. Oh, sorry, it was Spain against Croatia first. Was it? I can't even remember who was first.
Spain were 3-1 up. Croatia paid them back to 3-3, and that happened again in the second game.
In the second game, but then, even for France, I think Switzerland got their 2 goals inside 5 minutes. I mean, what were France at? They were 3-1 up.
One disallowed. Don't forget as well.
And had one disallowed. Switzerland missed a penalty. They could have had the game won. I think if they'd went 2-0 up, the French wouldn't have came back. But France went 3-1 up with an absolute world-class goal from Paul Pogba. and then they threw it all away. But that's the beauty of this summer's tournament. I agree with you. It's been great. It's been good for football. VAR has been quick. There hasn't been 3 or 4 minutes waiting like we have been accustomed to in the Premier League, and let the best team win on Sunday night.
Yeah, I echo those sentiments exactly, Leon. It's been a pleasure. Again, to folks, don't forget, loads of markets open on this one. You've heard Leon's tip for first goal scorer, Raheem Sterling at 7-1, if I remember correctly.
I'm going with Sterling at 7-1, and if I was to pick an Italian, I'd probably go with Chiesa at 9-1.
And also, don't forget about the £10 no-lose offer. Steve's Kenner on any market around the game. If it doesn't come up, Boyle will refund your account with a tenner free bet. Cannot say fairer than that. Leon, as always, it's been a pleasure. Enjoy the final on Sunday, and may the best team win.
Cheers, Craig. Thanks, mate.